So, welcome back to No Buts About It. We are here with Chus, who is in his basement in Pittsburgh. I am in a dining room in Indiana. The rookie, Jonathan Avocado, is in, I believe, Steubenville, Ohio, along with Stan the Jet fan, who is also in Steubenville, Ohio. Though they are not together, they are within a block of each other. So,
The big
uh,
city.
the same city.
Mhm.
So, if they get mad at each other after this discussion, they can go hash it out like men. We we are going to lead the discussion.
I agree. I agree.
We got all of our guys together here, and that was a bit difficult. But Denzel Mims, he was on the New York Jets, and now he's not on the New York Jets, but he is on Avocado's favorite team, the Detroit Lions. So I guess let's just start off with Avocado. Do you know anything about Denzel Mims? Have you researched him at all?
Yeah, so I actually had to do a little bit of research on this guy because, the rookie is still learning and he wasn't a big name from what I heard. But based on what I've researched about him, solid individual. He is 6'3", 25. Not too bad for a wide receiver specifically. And he was a second round pick back in the day. So I think the guy has potential, though he's kind of gone under the radar lately because he hasn't been getting a lot of playing time, and man is hungry. He's dying full of hunger to play. I believe, now somebody correct me if I'm wrong, he even once asked to be on special teams because he wanted that playing time. But unfortunately, now we get to the day where, the Jets were hoping to get rid of him, and out of nowhere, the Lions come and swoop. And I think on both the Jets' perspective and the Lions' perspective, it's a good move for both people. On the Jets' perspective, Stan, I don't know how you'll feel about this, but Jets weren't going to play him anyway, but now they're able to get a few picks out of him. And for the Lions, if we remember earlier in the summer, Jameson Williams got suspended due to gambling. And so the Lions were getting desperate. Of course, Williams is only suspended for 6 games, I believe. But now they have somebody to be able to cover him, and Mims could produce early and possibly be in contention for a position with Jameson Williams. Whether that happens or not, I think he should take advantage of this opportunity because he wanted, like I said earlier, he wanted to start. He was very hungry to get playing time, and he just wasn't going to get that from the Jets. And now he's, not in an overrated team, not a very not super underrated team. Like they're in the middle. So he could possibly take advantage of the situation, or it could just go down the drain. So it's very exciting to see this season, especially those 6 games where Jameson isn't around to kind of breathe down his neck about playing. So I think it's a good move for him personally, and I think it's a good move for both teams. But who knows? Who knows how the Jets are feeling about him?
How are the Jets feeling about him, Stan? What do you think?
So I've been a big Mims fan since day one. Josh, you remember this? Out of his class, he was actually the guy I was most excited to see, and he's definitely had some issues, injuries, smaller ones, but things like that over the years. And I think with him, it's really important to ask the questions of what is he going to be for the Lions? Is he going to be a guy who's going to take you guys into the playoffs? And the Lions, I could actually see them making the playoffs. Could he bring you into a Super Bowl and have a good amount of caliber there? I don't think so. I don't think that's him who's going to do that at least. But can he be a quiet guy who's sit on the bench, come off the bench sometimes, make bigger plays in games, and really help you guys as a wide receiver room? I think so. The reason why Mims never worked for us is because we never really needed him too much on the wide receiver in the wide receiver room. And the year we did need him, when we did need him the most, he was injured. So it was an issue of timing, I think. For Mims, as you said, he's a big pick. He's a second round pick for a wide receiver. Second round picks tend to be pretty good. So I do think he has that potential. I do think he can turn it into something. It just didn't really work so much on the Jets. So I am excited to see him on the Lions, and that gives me one more reason to watch the Lions. They are actually one of the teams I'm really excited for this season. And yeah, I do think you guys really made a good decision getting him, and we made a good decision moving on from him because we were not going to be able to give him the amount of snaps he really needs. He needs at this point of his career to be able to progress.
So you said he was one of your favorite wide receivers coming out of that draft class. That was a stacked wide receiver draft class. He was a 2020 rookie, I believe. So T. Higgins, you've got Justin Jefferson, both those guys off the top of my head that I can think of in that draft class. So Denzel Mims was like your guy that you were paying attention to over.
Let me rephrase that. I meant from that draft class for the Jets, he was my favorite player.
Oh, okay.
So from everyone the Jets got that year, he was the one I really thought was going to turn into something more than anyone else. And I do think yeah, there were obviously a lot of great wide receivers there, but as a Jets fan, obviously I'm looking at him. I'm looking at Denzel Mims.
I was going to say that's some pretty high praise there, putting him above T. Higgins and Justin Jefferson. But Charles, what did you think of the trade?
I mean, I think it could, as Stan said, I mean, there really wasn't a whole lot of room in the wide receiver area for the Jets. I feel like they've been running a lot with other guys and whatnot, and I feel like whatever their scheme is going on down in New York, I feel like they've got it under wraps and under control. So I really feel like, Mims going to the Lions could really, benefit the Lions, who are also trying to make a push, and with also just different acquisitions for the Jets, I feel like Mims wasn't really needed in New York anymore. So although don't get me wrong, I think he would have still been some sort of asset in New York. I feel like it just makes more sense that he is in Detroit. But I mean, yeah. I really am just kind of neutral on the whole thing because I mean it's just I feel like it'll benefit Detroit more. But we'll see if it really pushes them to like a jump start, because what was the Lions record last year? It was like what, 9-8? Because they didn't make playoffs, but they almost did. So I don't remember.
It is 9-8. You're right.
Yeah, they finished out and like they didn't make it though, because I remember the Jaguars on the AFC side did, and they finished 9-8. But on the NFC side, the Lions finished 9-8 and they didn't make it. And so I feel like I don't know if Mims would be the guy to get the Lions over that hump to like a 10-7 or like an 11-6, but I think he still might be a key part in some games being won. I feel like there's more to just one guy than it's not like he's some sort of like 100% game changer. I mean, like, don't get me wrong, Jared Goff is great, but like if you brought in like a Patrick Mahomes to the Lions, then all of a sudden, voila, yeah, I think the Lions would go 14-3 or whatever. So,
yeah, I mean, the thing I think about looking at the trade is the New York Jets currently have like every receiver that has ever put on a Green Bay Packers jersey, plus all of the people that they drafted.
Well, yeah, you also, I mean, you kind of forget about that, but Allen and all of those guys are over there now too.
You got Allen, you got Garrett, you've got all these people. Dalvin Cook is a running back, but he's allegedly going over there, and that's another big thing. But you look at the Lions wide receiver depth chart, and they have like nobody. They have Marvin Jones Jr., I think, is still there.
Marvin Jones Jr.
Who used to play for the Bengals. I think he's like a 2011 rookie or something like that. So he's been in the league for a while. Then
he's been on the Lions for a while, I think.
Yeah. He was on the Jaguars too for a bit, but I think he's still on the Lions. Amon-Ra St. Brown is obviously your wide receiver one, your stud guy up there. And I think what Denzel Mims does is, even if he's not a super athletic player, if he's not this like stud player, he's a guy that is young, he's big, as Avocado talked about, Mr. Rookie over there. He's a big guy, and he's someone you're going to have to put a defender on. You're not just going to be able to ignore him, and that allows for the Lions to do more with Amon-Ra, because then he's not necessarily being double covered every snap. In my opinion, I think your strategy then gets opened up a bit more, and Dan Campbell is really going to enjoy doing that and not having to figure out how to get Amon-Ra open, because Amon-Ra isn't Megatron, who can have 3 guys on him at the same time and still catch the ball. But I think it's a great trade. I think it's good for both sides. I don't think either side really gave up too much. Both gave up conditional picks. I think the Jets got a 6th-round conditional pick, and the Lions got a 7th-round conditional pick with Denzel Mims. So, yeah, not too much there. I mean, I don't know, Stan, if you have, or Avocado, if you guys have any other thoughts, we can move on from there. But that was my thought process. I think you both made really good points.
The one thing I would add is Alvarado mentioned special teams, and that is one thing that Mims actually struggled a little bit in. The Jets did try to bring him in there, but he really struggled to get really aggressive there, which with special teams, that's what it comes down to. It comes down to being aggressive and reading the field. And in those two things, Mims did kind of stutter a little bit. He did not seem very natural there. I do hope he can make it work on the Lions. For you, that was one of the reasons why we weren't able to bring him on our roster too often. Because if you're talking about like a 4th, 5th, a 6th wide receiver on a roster, if they can't do special teams, there's not really a whole lot there. So that was one thing for the Jets that just didn't work out. Now, for as Josh pointed out, for you guys, he could be maybe a much higher, wide receiver 3, something to that effect. And in that type of role, if he's just playing wide receiver, it makes perfect sense. So I do think it'll be a great fit for you guys, and I'm excited to watch it.
Yeah. What did you think about that, Avocado?
Yeah,
Rookie,
I'm really
whatever.
curious to see how he's going to fit into this team, both on and off the field, how he gets along with the rest of the guys. And, a bit of it is now it's more so, I feel that Mims is at a point in his career where he really has to put his money where his mouth is. He was a 2nd-round pick in 2020. 3 years later now, going on to almost, I believe, 3 to 4 seasons later, it's either time for him to shine, or will it be the point of his career where he becomes a flop and just kind of rides the bench the rest of the season? So we'll have to wait and see, but it's a good season to look forward to.
Okay. So, interesting points. Good, very good points, I think. Maybe someone in the comment section will get mad at one of you. But I think you both have valid
I
points.
get hate from Anthony when I dislike Anthony Richardson.
You
So
get hate for
everything.
Yeah. The thing is, they don't comment; they just text me because they're people that I know. They're like, "That dude's an idiot."
Well, except for that one time we got that angry comment about Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, but I had a guy who lives here in town who listens to the show, which thank you. But yeah, he texted me. He was like, "This dude has no idea what he's talking about. He just hates the Colts for no reason." But
no, I actually respect the Colts heavily. I just don't think Anthony Richardson is that good, and that's just the end of the day. I mean, according to Fantasy NFL Trending News, Anthony Richardson took all of the QB1 snaps during training camp, so you almost kind of have to confirm that he will be in a good spot for QB1.
I kind of wanted to see Gardner play, but
I rather see Gardner play personally, but also I love Gardner Minshew to death, but homie does not have a very good win record. So, I think he has a total of maybe 2 wins, 3 wins.
Yeah,
it's not a lot, but
So I guess Stan, you said before we started the show you are 20% a Giants fan unless they make the playoffs. Then you are all in on the Giants. If the Jets don't make it, that was your qualifier. If the Giants make it and the Jets don't, you are a Giants fan in the playoffs. So, kind of one of the big names regarding the whole running back controversy about running backs not being paid. One of the spearheads there was Saquon Barkley. Was Saquon Barkley gonna sit out? He didn't like that he was franchise tagged. He refused to sign his franchise tag, and now he has signed a 1-year, $11 million contract that includes $2 million signing bonus. So, what did you think about that move for the Giants? Do you like that move? Do you think he's worth more? Do you think they overpaid for Daniel Jones and now they're underpaying for Saquon Barkley?
I think both. I think he could be worth more. I think in a perfect world for him, if he can stay healthy, he's one of the best, if not, I honestly think he's a top 3 if he's healthy in the league, top 3 running back. But he's had so many issues with injuries. And that is, with that conversation of are running backs getting paid fairly in the NFL, that's what it comes down to, injuries. You're throwing your body into 300-pound guys pretty much every single snap. There's going to be injuries. There's going to be normal wear and tear, and age is going to have way more of a factor on you than other positions. So when you look at Saquon, is he an amazing athlete? Is he, one of the best at his position? Yes. But is he worth that amount of money? It's hard to say. For the Giants, I think he is because the Giants, one, their fan base loves him, right? Their locker room loves him. Everyone respects him. He has a lot of respect in that locker room. He's done a decent job of avoiding controversy. When you look at a lot of these other big name players, uh, he's kind of been way more disciplined. So I do think for the Giants, you kind of need to keep him. If you have to throw a little bit extra money, do it. He is a big part of your team. The question is, will he stay healthy? And if he doesn't, if this is his last year with the Giants, are we going to look at a situation like Dalvin Cook, where now no one really knows where he is, no one really knows what level he's at? Will he be kind of like what remember Le'Veon Bell, that type of situation where he just kind of all of a sudden falls off? It's really unclear with running backs, and that's why his payments work out the way they do work out. And I'm going to keep my fingers crossed. I hope he does well. I do like the Giants. The only time I don't like the Giants, I'm completely against them, is when they play the Jets. But besides that, I do like the franchise a lot. They were my first favorite team until I switched to the Jets. So I hope it works out for him, and I hope it works out for the Giants. I'm not too confident in that, just because injuries are going to be a big part of this conversation, and especially because the Giants depend so heavily on him for their offense to run, for Daniel Jones to look good, that I think there is a risk of him getting overplayed and pushed a little bit too hard and having another injury.
Okay. So, and I'm going to ask you to comment on the general running back situation first, and Alvarado, you'll also be allowed to comment on it as well if you have anything to say or if you know about it. I don't know how much research you've done into that. Possibly none. You're shaking your head no, so I'm going to guess you don't know much. That's fine. But you mentioned Le'Veon Bell, and so Chus kind of grimaced. I'm going to bring up this Le'Veon Bell quote that he said today or yesterday, I believe, from Dov Kleiman, who was reporting it, and he said it on, I don't know what podcast he said it on, but he said, Daniel Jones, he's in the bottom tier. He's in the bottom tier of NFL quarterbacks, Bell stated. He's not mediocre. There are average quarterbacks. He's in the bottom tier. I'm not here trying to talk bad about Daniel Jones. I'm just trying to be real for everyone who's hearing it. He's in the bottom tier, where Saquon Barkley is in the top tier of his position, running back. So how does that make sense? So basically, how is Daniel Jones making, I think, $45 million a year, and Saquon is making only $11 million a year? And why do you think Bell's still salty about his whole situation with the Steelers? And I know Chus has his comments about that, but do you think Saquon is more of a key piece for the Giants offense than what Daniel Jones is?
No. Quite simply, no. This is the way I think about it. This is what I thought about when I heard Bell's quote. So, would you rather pay $50 for a below-average steak, or $50 for the best scrambled eggs in the world? I'm paying for that below-average steak because steak is steak. Scrambled eggs, they could be great, but they're not steak. For the NFL to work, for an NFL team to have a good offense, you don't really need amazing scrambled eggs. You need good steak. Quarterback is a much more valuable position. The fact that Saquon is much better at being a running back is fine, but even the best running backs don't even take the majority of their snaps, or all of their snaps. The best running backs still are only taking, 70, 80% of snaps. Quarterbacks, even the worst quarterbacks, if they're starting quarterback, they're taking every single snap for that offense. It's a very big difference there. I think Bell is in the wrong for his comment. I think it shows a little bit of a lack of foresight there.
So, Chus, as the official Steelers fan of the podcast, what do you think about Le'Veon Bell's comments and scrambled eggs and steak?
The steak is a good analogy to this current conversation, but in my opinion, I don't necessarily think that. I mean, I do feel like Le'Veon Bell was being real. I think he was being real in a sense. I mean, I don't think Daniel Jones is some bottom tier quarterback. I mean, I think he's decent, but I don't necessarily as me and you talked about, like, in the show a couple weeks ago, the running back game is very different than how it was, even 5-10 years ago, because nowadays you get young guys coming up, and then once the young guys are done, per se, like these rookies, they roll through, 25, 26 years of age, they cut them and they just get fresh guys. It's really just, take and dump. And so, yes, they are very skilled, but for example, you have, Saquon Barkley has a lot of injuries. He's only 26. I think the 1-year deal isn't bad, but I wouldn't extend him any longer than 3 years if I were the Giants, if at all, because of his injury background. Granted, there was a lot to that. They were overusing Saquon. There wasn't really a whole team for the Giants. It was just Saquon to the point where Saquon hurt himself. I think Le'Veon Bell, it's very interesting that he's been a lot more in these news and podcasts more recently after that, Steelers video. He's like, I should have never left and whatever. So I don't know. I don't think, I don't think he meant any like harm by it necessarily. I think he was just stating his opinion because, some people consider Daniel Jones a lot higher of a quarterback than bottom tier. I wouldn't consider him bottom tier personally. I would probably consider him probably like, I guess, middle tier, maybe a little lower than middle tier. But I don't think he's like garbage, I think there's definitely some worse quarterbacks out there that have very not good win percentages that are not Gardner Minshew, because Gardner Minshew is freaking amazing. And I love Gardner Minshew.
If I can clarify my position, I do think that Bell is correct on saying that Daniel Jones is not, an average quarterback. I do think he's below average. But, as a Jets fan, I wish we had a below average quarterback last season. If we had Daniel Jones, I do think we would have made the playoffs. There were quite a few games where we just couldn't get the offense running. And we had good running backs. We had plenty of good running backs. But the lack of having just a A-OK quarterback, that's what hurt us in the long run. So I think when I said he lacks foresight, I meant that more that his interpretation that a top-tier running back should get paid more than a below-average quarterback, I think that is where what I was referring to.
Okay. So, Alvarado, do you have anything to say on that? I know you're...
This is above my skill knowledge.
All right.
He's learning as we go.
Real quick though, I think we need to make a tier list on quarterbacks because there's average and then below average, and then there's got to be something below average, like something's got to be lower than below average, and I really think that's probably going to be trash. But Stan decided to leave.
We lost Stan. Stan, the Jet fan. He was like,
Stan was very offended by what Le'Veon Bell had to say regarding Daniel Jones.
Called him scrambled eggs, man. That was funny.
I don't know. We'll see. I guess we'll see if he comes back. But
so you think there is below average?
Like something below average. I'm not saying below average. I'm saying like you go like superior, amazing, good, average, below average, and then like trash.
So who is the face of the trash tier?
The face of the trash tier?
Yeah, like when you think of trash quarterbacks, who is like the first one to come to mind for you? That isn't a backup.
Zach Wilson.
Zach Wilson's a backup.
Well, at one point he was a starter. Okay, freaking Mills then. Mills is bad. I didn't like Mills.
He's also a back. You just named 2 backups.
Okay, then what do you want me to do? All these rookies, I know nothing about these rookies.
You named 2 starters.
I know, but but if I say Anthony Richardson's trash, everyone's gonna be like, he's not trash. And honestly, they do have a point right now because although I think he's trash, and I still do, in the end, he hasn't started and played a game yet. So I really don't have anything to say about him. I was referring back to the season before because that's what we can. We don't really know who's going to start and who's not. I remember this time last year, they thought Mason Rudolph could start over Mitchell Trubisky and Kenny Pickett.
Where's Kenny Pickett on your tier list?
On my tier list? I would say he's probably average.
Okay.
Just because, we've seen him one season, and, still made a playoff push. He shows promise, but I wouldn't say he's like... in my heart, he is superior. But on the field, I think he is right now. I think he's average. But I think it gives a season to develop. Just because, last season it wasn't some impressive, rookie season. It wasn't like a Ben Roethlisberger season where he went 15-1 or whatever it was.
So then, where's Jared Goff?
Jared Goff?
Yeah.
D tier, C tier, A tier.
The problem I have with Goff too is he's around the same. I feel like he's also average.
Okay.
He's not I could push it and say he's below average, but he's had enough games where he has had 200 and 300 yard passing games where it's been huge games and big wins. But in my opinion, with Jared Goff, then again, you have things where for example, he had the Rams, he had them in the Super Bowl, they lose 13-3.
How does that terrible Super Bowl?
That was a terrible Super Bowl. And I get its defense, but how do you not move the ball upfield?
No, that was just both sides.
Yeah,
it was terrible. Jared Goff, though, very quietly had a very good season last year. He had the best touchdown to interception ratio in the NFL last year.
Overall, I think he's average, but I think if you're basing it off of just last season, I think he's probably maybe above average or probably good.
Yeah, well, I did have another question for Stan the Jet fan, but he decided to dip, so I guess we're moving on from there.
Okay. Is that going to be where Rodgers lands on the tier list?
Well, no, it was going to be he kind of mentioned Zach Wilson and how he's below average. And I was going to ask him how he feels about Zach Wilson kind of just sitting back and he's watching Aaron Rodgers, and he seems to be getting along with Aaron Rodgers. And since Rodgers is probably only going to play 2 seasons, how he feels about maybe giving Zach Wilson a second shot after Aaron Rodgers. But he's not here. So
yeah, we really can't.
Yeah, I think Chuss would probably say, screw Zach Wilson, he sucks, go find someone else.
No, I would say screw Zach Wilson, go find somebody else.
Okay.
Yes.
I guess we can. I don't know if Stan's coming back or not. I don't know what happened.
I didn't get a text from him. He didn't text anybody. I don't know if he texted any of you guys, but Stan, he's an enigma, honestly.
He mentioned he mentioned steak and scrambled eggs and got hungry, and so he left.
Yeah, maybe he's making a trip out to IKEA to get some good steak.
He's on his way here, for all I know. He got upset.
Oh yeah, maybe he's beating you up for something.
Let's do this real quick because I want Mr. Avocado to be able to talk some. So, are there any questions you have about what's going on around the league? Is there anything that we've talked about either in text because we're all in a group text together, or just other stuff that you're just I have no idea what this means? Explain this to me.
I thought it was the funny thing you mentioned about Burrow earlier, which I thought was the funniest thing.
You want to talk about that? We want to talk about that? Okay. So, yeah. No, Chuss was probably happy. He was probably yes, don't have to deal with this guy. So Joe Burrow, training camp. Literally, I believe this time, July 26th, he was in the hospital. July 26th of last year, he was in the hospital healing from an appendectomy. And some reporter asked him, are you glad that you're not in a hospital bed this year and you can actually have a full off season without any injury, no COVID, no appendectomy, none of that? And he said, yes, I'm glad. Knock on wood. Literally the next day, Joe Burrow, he gets injured. And here's how ESPN sent out the push notification. It was something along the lines of, Joe Burrow suffers non-contact leg injury at practice, carted off field. Which, to most people who read that and have been following football for a while and have seen a lot of injuries,
Achilles tear.
Yeah, that means a leg tendon tear, and they're done for the season. You ain't seeing the field this year. Which means Trevor Siemian is our quarterback for the year.
Trevor Siemian.
Yeah, all right.
Let's go. Broncos legend Trevor Siemian.
That's right. Yeah,
Broncos legend.
Oh, Stan just texted me. He said, I had 25% and thought that it would last the episode, but I think the video killed my battery. If you're still discussing stuff that I can be relevant to, let me know and I can get back on.
I mean, if he wants to join back in, I mean, I'm sure we could get him a question or just ask for his opinion anyway.
That's funny. Anyway, so Joe Burrow, yeah. So we get that. I'm like, shoot. And I was at work. I was actually doing a camera operation downtown, and so I got that. And so I hopped on Twitter real quick because I wanted to see the video, and I got the video, and it was like, no, he has a calf strain. That was what I said. And then Chad Ortho Cinco, he hopped on and he was like, guys, it's going to be okay. Just a calf strain. I was like, okay, me and Chad Johnson agree. So that's all we need. But I do believe that the entire city of Cincinnati did die for at least 1 minute when that ESPN notification came through, because that was terrifying for me. And I'm not even in Cincinnati. And I've been getting texts, DMs, messages from all sorts of people. I actually just got another one from one of my friends who was like, how do you feel about Joe Burrow being out? And I was like, he's not going to be out because he has a calf strain. It was hot out, and he was dehydrated, and he hurt his calf. But he'll be okay. He's just going to take it slow for a few weeks. Maybe sit down for some contract negotiations, and we'll re-sign him. We'll re-sign T. Higgins. We got Trey Hendrickson. No one's leaving Cincinnati. We're just going to re-sign all of them. It's going to be okay.
Knock on wood for that one.
I'm going to knock on wood specifically because I think this might actually be a perfect knock on wood moment for it to not work.
Who's leaving? Who do you think's leaving?
I don't think T. Higgins actually extended.
You don't think T? Oh, T is one that I'm like just waiting.
Well, if T does extend, do you think that you can fully extend Jamar?
Yes.
Because Jamar arguably is better than T.
Jamar is better than T, and I think T would agree with that. But we're gonna be okay.
Well, I know that Tyler Boyd's leaving.
Tyler is one we're gonna lose, which that's fine because by the time his contract's up, I think he will be in the league for 10 years.
Well, he'll also be like in his early mid 30s. He'll be
30. Yeah, and the Bengals don't like to give contracts past 30, so that's just expected. But
Tyler Boyd is how long is he signed for? He's signed until next year. And this is his last season. So, yeah, he's on an $8.4 million base salary.
Whew.
And then he'll be an unrestricted free agent next year at the age of 30.
Yeah, so he's probably not going to get re-signed. But that's fine. That's fine.
Tyler Boyd to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
No, hell no.
That would be really awesome.
That would be terrible.
Former Pitt legend, Tyler Boyd.
Moving on from this heresy.
Hail to Pitt. Hail to Pitt. Keep going.
Screw Pitt. Justin Herbert re-signed he got extended. Very surprising. We thought that he was going to wait for Joe Burrow to get extended. He became the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. I did a video on this by myself, why I think it is a good signing for the LA Chargers. I don't know if you disagree with me, Chus, or if Avocado, if you disagree with me for any reason.
For the sake of arguing?
Yeah, for the sake of arguing. I don't know. I mean, it's a 5-year, $262.5 million deal, which makes him the second quarterback of the 2020 class to sign a huge extension. Philadelphia Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts signed a 5-year, $255 million extension in April. And Burrow has not signed yet. So, waiting on Burrow. I don't think Burrow's going to end up being the highest paid quarterback in the NFL.
Probably not. But not because he isn't more talented. I just think that the Bengals are trying to keep everybody, and I think they're just trying to orchestrate a plan there. So
I think he takes a pay cut. I don't think we would have extended Trey Hendrickson if they weren't confident that they could keep T. That's why I think T is being kept.
Because, I mean, I'm not saying that he's not. I don't know, because remember there is a lot to your team than just those players. Because remember,
I
you
know.
you do have to,
Yeah.
but we'll see. But when it comes to the Justin Herbert signing, I know me and you briefly talked about it, Josh. It's not that I don't think it's bad. I just don't really like they signed him to a heavy extension with like, how is he going to win games? In my opinion, and the
Why
reason
do you think?
I don't
Yeah.
think they can win games still. Like I don't think they're like a caliber team where you spend a big contract on Justin Herbert, but you have some older you have some decent wide receivers. Don't get me wrong, but like Austin Eckler at one point, didn't he want traded?
So yeah, Austin Eckler, interesting. That's an interesting point you brought up. So he's also been another big spearhead for the running back issues. He actually brought together a Zoom call of all the running backs, and this is some background information for you, Avocado, as to what's going on. He had like all the high tier running backs, like Christian McCaffrey, Josh Jacobs, I think Saquon, Derrick Henry. Those guys are all on this Zoom call talking about the issues and what they're facing. And Austin Eckler made, I think, a very good point. I've always been an Austin Eckler fan. He seems like a very genuinely nice guy. He wanted more money for his position and what he was doing because he was being handed the ball a lot. And he pointed out they didn't want to pay him, but then when he requested a trade, they wanted like first round picks for him. So
Yeah.
he was like, you're not valuing me as a player worthy of being paid, but you're valuing me as worth a first round pick. That doesn't make sense. So that was why he didn't get traded. He wanted to get traded. I think he did end up signing with the Chargers and is going to play for them as of now, but sounds like we're going to get a little running back union going pretty soon. If I know Josh Jacobs is sitting out, Zeke isn't signed anywhere. Saquon is signed.
It doesn't say that he signed anything.
Okay, maybe he hasn't. I thought he did.
On
He's been at camp,
what is it, Spot Rack or whatever? Spot Rack, they usually have really good things. It says he's only up until 2024. But yeah, I mean, he's still doing. Obviously, he's not going to sit out like his boy Melvin Gordon did, but before Austin Eckler ended up starting. But nonetheless, I feel like the problem is over in LA is you have the weapons right at your fingertips. Why don't you try to get them signed too, or try to work with getting maybe even younger players? I mean, you still have Keenan Allen on your roster. Austin Eckler is also 29, so I get why they may want to move on from him, but I also don't think, being like in your late 20s, early 30s, because I feel like with the running backs, it like becomes 30 and older. I feel like really is where you struggle with running backs, because then that's like where your body really starts taking a toll, because at that point you had been doing it for 6 years or 7 years or however long of just running into those big men. So in my opinion, I think it's a good signing, but I mean, granted, the Chargers really haven't done much in playoffs either with Justin Herbert in the backfield. So, I mean, I can see why it's bad, but I can also see why it's good, because there is a ton of potential in the next 5 years. If they make the right choices, they make the right signings, the right drafts. But like, I don't know. I think it's too hard to tell. And I wouldn't jump the gun too much on it being like a horrible signing, because we really don't know yet. I mean, there's a lot to be said, and who knows what could happen. But you ever think about this real quick? I don't know. I was just thinking about this. This probably won't be in our lifetime, but like in another lifetime, like, once we pass on, these quarterbacks are probably going to be getting billion-dollar contracts at some point. I don't know if because
at its finest.
Because what? Like what?
What is its finest?
I said inflation at its finest.
Inflation. Because when you think of like Patrick Mahomes already had that $500 million deal a couple years ago or whatever. Wasn't that right, Josh? It was like 500 mil, and then it got like reconstructed a little bit. I don't really remember too much of the details of it, but I just remember it was like a blockbuster signing, and it was like but it was $500 million. It was $500 million. Yeah, that's crazy.
But it's across 10 years.
I know, but still, like, there's going to be a time where, like, because baseball's already done some, like, really close, where it'd be like $920 million contracts over like 12, 13 years. Whereas like in the NFL, I feel like at some point, not like anytime soon. I'm not saying the next 10 years, but probably within by the time like we have great grandkids or grandkids or something. I feel like these contracts are going to be close to $1 billion contracts, and if we don't see it, we're going to be dead. But we're talking Stan. We're currently talking about how cool it would or how crazy it's going to be that someday we may not witness it, but that some NFL quarterbacks are going to be paid billions of dollars, like $1 billion contracts.
To address Chuss's point that he just made about the rising in contracts, in that video, I went into two things so Justin Herbert's playoff record, people say Justin Herbert blew a 27-point lead. Justin Herbert did not blow a 27-point lead because Justin Herbert does not play defense. Justin Herbert put up 30 points against the Jaguars, which is enough to win a game. The Chargers defense decided to let Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars score 28 points, and they lost that lead 30-31 at the end. Also, fun fact for you, Stan, actually, even after the pay cut, if these numbers were updated and correct, Aaron Rodgers is the only quarterback this year, as of now, who is still in the top 5 highest paid quarterbacks and was in the top 5 highest paid quarterbacks last year. So that's why looking at Justin Herbert's contract, yes, right now he's the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. But next year, I don't think he'll even be in the top 5. And if he is, he'll be 5th. Because you're going to have more signings. You're going to have Burrow. You're probably going to have some guys rework their contracts. Trevor Lawrence is probably going to get some decent money. A lot of people are hyped over Justin Fields. I don't know why, but
Justin Fields. Yeah, Justin Fields.
He might get some decent money. I mean, you're going to have guys that I think that's why Patrick Mahomes isn't even in the top 5. And I think he's the only quarterback in the NFL who's a starter right now with multiple Super Bowl rings. And he's not even in the top 5 highest paid quarterbacks. So making him the highest paid now looks really smart in 4 years when you're paying your elite, assuming he stays on the same caliber. It looks really smart when you're paying that guy average. He's getting paid what maybe rookies will be making in a few years.
I mean, think about it though. Like I was just thinking about this. There are a ton of this NFL. These quarterbacks, a lot of them are really young. Like, because
Right.
you're talking about like these. I don't know why, but you were like, oh, multi Super Bowls, and I was like thinking about it. And I'm like, dang, we're like dominated by all these like young bucks. There's no old guys anymore. They all retired.
No, Aaron Rodgers doesn't have multiple Super Bowls. And Super Bowls are hard to get, and especially when you were playing with Tom Brady, who went to 10 of them and won 7 of them. So,
Well, he's about to.
Aaron Rodgers is about to have multiple?
He's about to.
Oh, okay.
Do you think that they're gonna win back-to-back Super Bowls in New York, Stan?
No, I'm mostly. I mean, obviously, as Josh said, the Super Bowl is very hard to come by.
Yeah.
I think this year, I'd be really happy if we made I think we'll definitely make the playoffs. I'd be really happy if we made the AFC Championship, and if we don't make the Super Bowl after that, I don't think that's going to be a failure for the Jets or Rodgers. For the Jets right now, we have so many young, amazing talents, so the fact that they haven't been able to make the playoffs is already upsetting. All of these young guys are going to need contracts soon, and I think we really realistically have about 2 or 3 more seasons with this current group of this young core before a lot of those guys are going to have to move on just because we don't have the money to keep all of them. So I think these next 2-3 years for the Jets will be a really good time to hopefully make a few Super Bowl runs, and if one of them works out, I'll be more than ecstatic. I do think there's a decent chance that Rodgers can lead us. Maybe not this year because it can be a little bit of a hard transition, but at least next year towards that Super Bowl ring.
So, yeah, the Jets, first of all, they just need to get a 4,000-yard passing that isn't named Joe Namath in Super Bowl 3. So if Aaron Rodgers can do that, he's already making Jets history, which I think he will. The other thing, the reason I had you come back is because I did have a question for you regarding Aaron Rodgers and Zach Wilson. So Zach Wilson is currently this year. I've got to make sure I explain this right. Aaron Rodgers' contract is backloaded. So right now, this year, Zach Wilson is making more than Aaron Rodgers is. Also, Zach Wilson sucked last year.
This is true.
But at training camp this year, it seems like he's really taken a liking to Aaron, and Aaron's taking a liking to him, and Aaron understands that he's partially there to help Zach Wilson get better, help Zach Wilson learn the game. And I think Zach Wilson is listening based on what I've read, based on what I've seen. He's kind of realized that this is a very special situation for him. This is what a lot of kids dream about growing up, being mentored by a Hall of Fame caliber quarterback and just being there to watch and learn from them. So when Aaron retires in 2 or 3 seasons, maybe, would you be willing, as a Jets fan, as Stan the Jet fan, give Zach Wilson a second shot? Give him the post Aaron Rodgers shot. Do you think he should be worth that?
100%. I want him to. In fact, my mentality is with these quarterback rooms is, even though you have Aaron Rodgers, if Zach Wilson does play better, if he does perform better, he should start. Now, I'm not very confident in that happening, but let's say Zach Wilson somehow overperforms, and through his preseason games, he's looking like a prime Tom Brady. I will 100% be down for him starting over Rodgers. Now, with Wilson, he's actually had a pretty good working relationship with Rodgers even before Rodgers came to New York. We had a joint training camp with them, I believe, last preseason. And Rodgers and Wilson did talk a lot. There were a lot of conversations they had together. And Wilson said afterwards that it was one of the best experiences of his pro career. So clearly Wilson has always respected Rodgers, especially since that joint training camp. So I think they do have a good relationship, and hopefully that can lead on into them being able to push each other. For Wilson, I think he does need that competition. I think one thing, if you remember from last preseason, that I was very upset with was that Robert Saleh said that Wilson is going to be guaranteed the starter, which I was against it. I said Chris Trebler, he played very well. Why not give him a fair shot at starting? I think that was one of the issues with the management and with the coaching staff from last season, and we all saw how that worked out. So that mentality, I think that has to go away with Wilson and the Jets in general. If Wilson does perform better, sure. And I do think Wilson needs the competition more than anything else, because with the Jets, he's been kind of this golden boy since he came into the building. So let's see him compete. Let's see him try and try to outplay Aaron Rodgers. And I have no doubt that he is, because if anything, Wilson has still always had a very competitive mentality. So I am excited to see this. I'm excited to see them go against each other. And I do think that with these next 2 seasons, with Wilson sitting in the background and watching one of the best players to ever touch a football do it in the same building as him, I think it's going to be a great learning experience for him. One thing with Wilson, too, is the 2 things he struggles with the most, in my opinion, are his ability to read the field, and secondly, his ability to, I'm trying to think of the term for this, but decision making, knowing when to drop back, knowing when to leave the pocket, knowing when to throw the ball off, those things are where Rodgers shines the most. Rodgers is not the most athletic guy. He's obviously very old. But Rodgers has an ability to read the field that goes way beyond the average NFL quarterback, clearly. So Wilson being able to learn from someone who has been able to make it work without those physical talents that Wilson does have, I think this will be a good opportunity for him.
Okay. So, yeah, that was all I had for you. Hopefully Alvarado realizes how insane it would be, though, if Zach Wilson somehow outperforms Aaron Rodgers at training camp. I think if Aaron Rodgers...
That I think we could also... what I think would be the funniest... Well, not funniest, but I think what would be unfortunate for the Jets is if Rodgers were to get injured, and now you have to once again depend on...
The man, the myth, the legend, the 80-yard man against one of the teams. I don't remember who it was. I don't know if it was Ravens or Patriots, but the 80-yard man throwing guy, big man Zach Wilson. legendary Jets
Just
player.
keeps finding his way into that starting position.
We also have
He'll
Tim
never
Boyle,
leave.
so
Dude, he's probably going to be like 64 and he'll be like a quarterback's coach for the Jets. I don't think that dude's ever leaving New York.
He's gonna be like Burt Reynolds in the Adam Sandler version of The Longest Yard, where he's just like, "I'm going in." Tired of this. Yeah. So that was really all I had for you. Thank you for coming back after your phone or whatever died. But yeah, that would be.
How do you
If
feel
Zach
about
Wilson? What?
I was gonna change topics briefly, but continue.
I was just gonna say, if Zach Wilson does that, I'll buy a Zach Wilson jersey because that's stupid, insane, and he's gonna have the starting position for the rest of his career if that's what he pulls off. What do you got, Chus?
I was just gonna say I think we forgot to mention it, but with us nearing almost close to an hour, I did want to mention that Jordan Addison did go 150.
I was gonna bring that up for you.
Yeah,
I know you wanted to mention that.
I just think it's kind of funny. I guess he didn't learn from Henry Ruggs III.
Okay. Henry Ruggs was drunk and
but Henry
and-
Ruggs also, in fairness to Henry Ruggs compared to Jordan Addison, is Jordan Addison's wasn't drunk and he was sober, just speeding, trying to get to his dog. Henry Ruggs killed a lady
woman.
and her dog.
Yeah, he
And
killed
then-
a woman and her dog. Jordan Addison was trying to save his dog.
Yeah, and
Jordan-
then he killed, and then Henry Ruggs was sitting on the sidewalk going, "No, my car! Oh no, my car! I can't believe I wrecked my car." Didn't even care at all about the fact that there was a dead dog and a dead woman in the other car. So
Exactly. Those are different.
now, granted, he probably still shouldn't have been doing it. Now, listen,
sure.
I mean, I get you were speeding, but it looked pretty bad. I don't know. I'm guessing he got cited. I guess he got a citation or like a traffic ticket or whatever.
He was going like 150 and like a 55. So that's over
reckless.
double the
Yeah.
speed limit. So
He could have been arrested
could have.
because
if
that
he
is
wasn't.
really bad. Because like if you're
Really
going
bad.
100 miles over the speed limit, usually that's like, reckless driving, and they can.
But he was trying to save the puppy though, so it's okay.
I know, but it's very dangerous.
That's
he would
how
have had
the
to get
law
bailed out
works.
of jail. His mama wouldn't have liked that.
Justin Jefferson would have come and bailed him out.
Dude, Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson are going to go crazy.
Hopefully, Jordan Addison can run as fast as he drives.
Well, I don't think that could physically be able to happen. Jamar Chase can't run 155 miles an hour either. Maybe in
Jamar
your
Chase-
dreams.
He
I
doesn't
feel like
need to.
in your dreams, Josh, you're just like dreaming about Bengals players, and you're like, "Oh no, I'm trapped. I need help." And then Jamar Chase is like the Flash, and he just comes out of nowhere. He's like, "I will save you." And then Joe Burrow is like Superman or something, and you're just like, just very, very excited because all these Bengals players are dressed up in superhero costumes and they're saving you from the evil Dark Lord of Kenny Pickett and everybody else because you hate the Steelers so much that you would rather root for the Browns or the Ravens.
Cannot confirm or deny.
Yeah. Well, I think I just
So-
picked up on that.
I'm gonna end this now before you get too deep into my. So
Hail to
thank
Pitt.
you.
Here we go, Steelers.
No, screw Pitt, screw the Steelers. Thank you for listening to today's show. If you enjoyed, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. We can be found anywhere you listen to podcasts and on YouTube at No Butts Show. Our social media pages are NoButts_show on Instagram and No Butts Show on TikTok, which Chus has been given an ultimatum to work on. It's August 11th. I'm going to keep saying that in every show so that he remembers.
Hey,
My
you told me to
Twitter-
work. You told me to work on the YouTube videos,
Those
not the
two.
TikTok.
Both, they all go together. My Twitter is Josh_Butts_2001. And if you would like to reach us, you can email us at bullmoosepodcast2. That's the number 2 at gmail.com. Finally, our spread shop will be in the description, so check out the merch. Once again, if you enjoyed today's show, like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, go do something nice for someone. Oh, there we go.